So this year APTRC hosted the National Short Course Trail Running Championships at the Snowy Mountains Trail Run in Jindabyne. Yeah, I was pretty nervous for this one. I think I was nervous just because it was an Australian Champs race. It was also a race that I thought I did have a chance at winning. 4 weeks beforehand, Christian and I went up to Jindy and recce'd the course. This gave me a good idea of the course, where the checkpoints were going to be and what kind of gear I was going to need to use on the day. This race had 3 aid stations. There was one at 10K, 30K and 40K. And I had Christian at all of these, just passing me off extra water and my gels as well. So morning of the race, I woke up at 4:30. Race start was 6:30, so it gave me a little bit of time to get ready. First thing I always do race morning is I'll get up and have a bagel, pop some jam on that, and then I'll also get down a Red Bull as well. After that, I did a little bit of mobility, got the massage gun out, tried to warm up my muscles as much as I could, got dressed and headed out the door. We drove down to the race start, got there about 6 o'clock, and I just went out and did a little bit of a shakeout run, so just 10 minutes along the first section of trail that we were going to start on. And by this time, the sun was starting to come up too, so it was a super nice sunrise. I was really excited for this race because previously in my 50Ks, I have been up against a lot of international runners, whereas this race here being a national champs meant that I was going to get to compare myself to some of the best runners in Australia. Coming into this race, there were 2 names that really stood out to me. The first one was Sophie Broom. So she lives down in Melbourne, and when I was living there, I did get the chance to race her a few times. We got to compete in the roller coaster trail run later last year, and we had a really good battle. So going into the race, I knew she was super strong. She's won 100K before, and I was definitely thinking that the longer this race was, the stronger and stronger that she would be. Everyone was also talking about Brittany Harridan. I haven't raced her before, but have seen that she's got some Strava segments around here in Canberra, so I knew that she'd be competitive. The start time was 6:30, so about 10 minutes before, they were allowing everyone to go into the start chute, and they were doing a mandatory gear check, so just double checking that everyone had their emergency gear and enough water to start them off in the race. So starting out the race, the pace was pretty hot. There was a group of lead boys that went off the front, and then Sophie and I kind of settled into a comfortable pace leading out the ladies. I stayed with Sophie up until about 6K, where I did get ahead a little bit, and I was kind of thinking maybe I had gone out too hard. Leaving the trout hatchery and getting into the single track of the TVT, I honestly just had no idea how far away the girls were behind me, and I wasn't really going to get any more information on this until I got to that 30K mark. Going into any 50K race, I really love to sit down beforehand and make a bit of a plan. So a little bit of a pacing strategy I had for this one was I was just going to break it up into sections between those aid stations. So the first section between the Jindabyne clay pits and the trout hatchery was 10Ks. And I knew this section was going to run along some flowy single track before we went up a slight hill into the aid station. What I wanted to do was I did want to go out kind of solid. I knew if I could go out solid, get myself in a good position initially, then that was going to put me in a good spot for the rest of the race. The next section between trout hatchery and Lake Crackenback is a part where we actually run along the TVT. So it's a 20K section and there's no support in here. The hard thing about this part is it's a beautiful single track. It's not too technical, but it isn't net uphill the entire time. So during this section of the race, I just wanted to settle into a pace that was comfortable and really focus on my nutrition. Once I got to the 30K mark and I saw Christian, I dropped some of my old flasks, picked up some new ones, and then picked up some more gels as well. I knew this next part, so from Lake Crackenback out to Nagario campground, it was going to be 10Ks, but I knew the hardest part was done. So I just needed to hold my position, keep eating, keep drinking, and it was really nice too because I knew that the next time I was going to see Christian was only 10Ks away. From 30 to 40Ks, I did start to struggle a little bit. We're running in the valley, it was pretty still, there was no breeze. So I was starting to get quite warm. And then by the time I got to the 40K mark, saw Christian, he poured about 1 litre of ice water over my head, and honestly think that made such a huge difference. It wasn't until the 40k mark where Christian actually said to me that I did have a decent lead on both Sophie and Brittany. And this was really nice to hear. It was kind of the first time in my head where I was like, all right, sweet, maybe I can get the win today. Leaving the 40k mark, I knew the next 10 or so k was going to be mostly downhill, so I just kind of focused on holding a steady pace all the way to the finish. Having done the recce beforehand, I knew that I needed a good pair of trail shoes for this course, something that was a little bit low profile, had good grip, and was going to be comfortable for the 50k distance. So I went for the Puma DV8 Nitro Elite Trails. And then the other thing too I took into consideration was just having a good pack or a good way to carry my water and my nutrition. So for this one, I went for the Salomon Ultra 10 pack. It just meant I could fit 2 500ml flasks in the front, I could fit 2 more in the back, and then it had enough pockets for all my gels as well.
Happy?
Happy.